morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your detailed forecast update for February 5th, 2025. A lot to get through today, including more tropical rainfall coming in for far north and north Queensland, plenty of heavy falls expected over the next couple of days, with hundreds of millimetres of rain still on the cards there. We'll talk about the heatwave happening over in Western Australia and the dual tropical cyclones occurring currently offshore from WA and the Northern Territory as well. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing, but let's get stuck straight into things this morning up in north and far north Queensland, where some significant rainfall accumulations have been reported over the last 12 to 24 hours, with peak falls around the Cairns area being up to 200 millimetres. Cairns Airport itself picking up 180 millimetres, and many places around Cairns have picked up close to 200 millimetres, or well in excess of 150 millimetres, approaching 200 millimetres of rainfall, and most of that has fallen overnight. Some good falls as well sliding down the North Queensland coastline, with some more rainfall still to come as well throughout the remainder of today. Billund and Kerr in the last 48 hours has picked up close to 500 millimetres of rainfall, so some really significant rainfall accumulations are being reported pretty much left, right and centre. Areas on Hingebrook Island and around the Herbert River catchment area have picked up between 80 and 150 millimetres overnight as well. Some good falls also extending down the coastline into Townsville and then especially into the Whitsundays and outside of Mackay, where accumulations overnight have been up to 150 millimetres down around the Mackay and the Proserpine area, and we've had accumulations in Townsville over the last 24 hours of around 50 millimetres, so negligible rainfall accumulations there, but still some significant falls that are hampering the flood recovery efforts there and preventing those river levels from dropping significantly. Also some good rainfall currently occurring inland as well, out towards Georgetown and Hughenden as well. Rainfall accumulations out there have been between 50 and 150 millimetres over the last 24 hours, with, again, more rainfall to come out there. And you can see it is moderate to intense at times as well. So much tropical moisture across far north Queensland at this time, and it's just giving way to all of this rainfall, which has eased off temporarily just over the last couple of hours, but it will continue to build throughout the remainder of today as well, considering that we were expecting tonight and into tomorrow to be the wet days, especially for the North Queensland coastline. Let's just jump straight into that forecast right now using the convective models, of course, considering they have proven to be the most reliable over the last couple of weeks. So the axis is still calling for those moderate to intense falls to occur later on tonight along the North Queensland coastline, extending between Townsville up towards Innisfail. I'm expecting the heaviest falls to be specifically around the Tahlia and the Cardwell area. I'm expecting the heaviest rain to be, which isn't necessarily reciprocated between this forecast model here, but other forecast models suggest some heavy falls along that strip of coastline just through here, especially around Hingebrook Island. And I'm talking about heavy showers moving ashore here, tending to steady rainfall at times, which means we could be seeing rainfall rates averaging 10 to 50 millimetres an hour and potentially 24-hour rainfall accumulations up to about 300 or 350 millimetres up there. The heavy falls continue through Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. You can see heavy falls expected as far south as about Townsville throughout the remainder of Thursday as well, and then the heavy rainfall continuing through Thursday and begins to slowly ease off throughout the course of Friday, but still moderate to intense falls expected along the far north Queensland coastline between Townsville up towards Cairns on Friday. The wettest day around Innisfail and Tahlia is looking to be Friday as well, especially considering the amount of rainfall that's coming through on Friday morning. I'm expecting some very heavy falls there, and as one of the low pressure systems connected to this low pressure trough, which is going to be driving all of this rainfall ashore, gets itself offshore sometime on Friday, we'll be seeing another batch of heavy rainfall dragged into the North Queensland coastline, especially around where the Herbert River drains around Ingham up towards Cardwell and then Tahlia and Innisfail as well. We'll be seeing some very heavy falls there, and then locally intense rainfall down towards Townsville and Ayr with showers associated with that rainfall down there. Now, heavy falls continue through Friday night into Saturday morning. There'll be a bit of a resurgence of the rainfall as well. In fact, Saturday's shaping up to be a really wet day around Innisfail and Tahlia down towards Cardwell and Ingham as well. The rainfall around there will continue to build throughout Saturday night into early Sunday morning before easing off around lunchtime on Sunday, and then that should be salutations to this weather event here. There will be a couple more drops of heavy falls here and there on Sunday and in towards Monday, but then it looks like this rainfall does properly clear out coming around Monday or Tuesday, and whilst there will still be some heavy showers in the vicinity, the rainfall steadily eases off throughout Monday and Tuesday, and then pretty much clears out of far north Queensland come around Wednesday or Thursday. Still a couple of showers here and there, but what do you expect this time of the year? It's pretty much raining every single day up in February, March and April across far north Queensland. That's what we are expecting, but the heaviest falls should clear out come Monday, and then the majority of moderate heavy falls should clear out through Tuesday and Wednesday as well. So yes, there is quite a lot more rainfall to come, about a week of the stuff still to come across far north Queensland. It is going to be very heavy at times, specifically tonight into Thursday and into early Friday morning. We're expecting heavy falls between Ingham down towards Ayr, so around the Townsville area. We have the chance of those heavy falls later on tonight as those winds sweep around from the east. Of course, the rainfall is going to pale in comparison to what's already fallen around the Townsville area, but you get what I'm saying, that we are expecting some isolated heavy to intense falls in these areas here, which could bring 24-hour rainfall accumulations up to a 200 or 250 millimetres around Townsville over Thursday and Friday. Rainfall there easing off throughout Friday, but then it picks up Saturday for areas north of Townsville up between Rollingston through Ingham, Cardwell, Tahlia and Innisfail, and as far north as Cairns. In fact, heavy falls expected throughout that entire Castlereagh coastline on Friday night into Saturday, and of course Saturday night in towards Sunday as well, with some heavy falls expected there. And then that rainfall steadily easing off through Sunday or late Sunday night and early Monday morning, and then the rainfall properly clearing out by late Monday night. So about 5 days left of this heavy falls stuff up here for North Queensland or far North Queensland. But in terms of looking beyond that, there's really no reprieve to the rainfall for a good couple of weeks by the looks of things. The long range forecast is suggesting pretty much steady rainfall across North Queensland throughout the remainder of February and probably in towards early March as well. In fact, I do have a hunch that in the long range, at least March towards May, is going to be very, very wet indeed across far North Queensland. We will head into another major flooding period between March out towards May. So not a very good long range forecast, that's for sure, for people that just want to get a bit of reprieve from this flooding rainfall that's occurring up here in far North Queensland. But it looks like this rainfall is going to be here to stay. It's booked a seat on far North Queensland and it is not looking to move, that's for sure. Let's take a look at 5-day rainfall accumulations here. In fact, this is 6-day rainfall accumulations, so we'll get it onto the 5-day rainfall accumulations. This is going to cover pretty much the worst of the rainfall here from right now out to about Sunday. So like I said, some really good falls expected along the Castlereagh coast, but I will give my 2 cents worth as well on this forecast here. So the Daintree rainforest, not expecting too much. I do still expect Port Douglas and Mossman to pick up about 250 millimetres over the next 5 days, but widespread falls between 50 and 100 millimetres look to be the norm up there. Cairns expecting a further 150 to 250 millimetres on top of what has already fallen there, so it is going to actually end up being quite wet for Cairns over the course of this week. I wouldn't be surprised if Cairns actually did end up with week-long rainfall accumulations between Monday just gone and the Monday coming to be up to about 4 or 450 millimetres there. The real falls will start south of Cairns, though I do expect Berlin and Kerr to pick up 750 millimetres from this rainfall event, especially around Fishery Falls and Gordonvale as well. Some significant falls possible there. Innisfail, contrary to this forecast, I do expect Innisfail to pick up 450 millimetres of rainfall. Babinda, a little bit further north, could get closer to 500 millimetres. Tully probably around that 4 to 450 millimetres of rainfall as well. South Mission Beach probably slightly wetter, up to about 500 millimetres there, but again, still, regardless of what rainfall comes through, considering it is going to be very heavy for the majority of the Castlereagh coast, I'm expecting some really significant flooding to unfold as a result of this rainfall event. Cardwell should see another 300 millimetres. There'll be, if there was a weather station on Hinchbrook Island, I wouldn't see a world where it picked up less than 500 millimetres of rainfall. Down towards Lucinda, Halifax and Ingham, I'm expecting about 350 millimetres a pop there, with slightly more rainfall coming in for the coastal areas, up to about 400 millimetres expected there. And then down the coastline, down towards already devastated areas around Rollingston and Palama, I'm expecting rainfall accumulations there up to about 400 millimetres over the next 5 days. Townsville is a little bit of a harder sell forecast here, considering whilst they do have that notorious rain dome, of course that's not a real thing, it is just a fact of how the rain behaves around Townsville. It just completely misses it the majority of the time. I do reckon that might actually be in swing here for this weather event. I just don't reckon the showers are intense enough to cross all of the mountains on pretty much every side of Townsville and head into the Townsville metro area and cause some significant problems there. I do expect Townsville to pick up 250 millimetres over the next 5 days. It'll be interesting to see what actually eventuates there, because right now it could really swing either way. They could get 50 millimetres or they could get up to 500 millimetres. The good news here is, even though we have a very uncertain forecast and there's huge discrepancies between forecast models in terms of what rainfall is expected, I mean, Townsville either way should get close to 250 millimetres, slightly more or slightly less, it doesn't really matter. The good news is, if they get 250 millimetres or they get 500 millimetres, the flooding situation is still pretty much going to relatively be the same. Yes, they will obviously get much more inundation on 500 millimetres, but it'll only be impacting areas that have already been devastated by flooding, and will only impact houses that are either complete write-offs or very, very heavily damaged. So whilst there is still a lot of rainfall on the cards, it's probably not going to do too much damage. It will of course be very much a big kick in the guts to Townsville, but places that are already flooded, they're going to continue to receive flooding, and places that haven't been flooded, I don't think 500 millimetres is going to be enough to cause that much inundation as to where the flooding is going to be such a problem for those locations that haven't been flooded just yet. Still a very ugly forecast for Townsville though, and you've got to feel for them in Townsville, where they've just been absolutely berated by the worst floods in nearly a decade down there, and they're going to get it again this week, or not so much to the degree that they have just copped it, but they will get a similar amount of rainfall that will cause a similar level of flooding across the Ross and the Bolly rivers. So if they're not releasing water from the Ross River Dam throughout the next couple of days, when the rainfall is expected to be at its worst this weekend, I don't know what they're thinking in that water management office, but they need to start dumping that water now. Otherwise we will see the Ross River Dam approach 160 or 170%. It's really good to see that it's now dropping. It's heading into the mid 100% right now. I think it's at about 140, or it could even be a little bit lower than that right now, but they need to be dumping water from that, and they need to get it under about 70 or 80% to prevent it from flowing over the weir from this flooding event here. So we will keep very close eye on things, especially at Lake Ross and the dam levels there. But yeah, in terms of significant rainfall for Townsville, whilst the town site could get 250 millimetres, it's not looking overly unlikely that 400 millimetres could fall in the catchment for Ross River, and that's mostly what matters here in terms of the flooding situation for Townsville. Further down the coastline, Guru, Ayr and Home Hill expect about 250 millimetres of rainfall. Further down from there as well, Bowen, probably about 100 millimetres of rainfall. I do actually see the chance of some significant falls around the Yalborough and the Gargett area. Wouldn't be surprised if 500 millimetres fell there over the remainder of this week and towards Sunday, outside of Mackay, which would cause some problems for the Pioneer River. I wouldn't actually be surprised if the Pioneer River continued at minor to even the moderate flooding alert through Marion and some of the areas upstream from Mackay as well. So we will keep a very close eye on things here, but I do reckon some of the mountains just outside of Mackay through here, I'm not sure what the national park is called here, but the Ungella National Park, I do expect rainfall accumulations there to be close to about 3, 4 or even 500 millimetres. So we'll have to keep a very close eye on things and what's actually expected through here. Some significant falls certainly are possible, that's for sure. They're not so much reciprocated between the forecast models, though I do actually believe wholeheartedly that there is going to be some significant falls across, especially the Cape York Peninsula and interior parts of the Cape York Peninsula. But once you get south of Mount Isa, the rainfall accumulations are very, very hit and miss. I'd be saying Mount Isa itself could see 100 millimetres over the next 10 days, which would be very welcome rainfall there, but anywhere further south it could swing one of two ways. You could either get an absolute deluge of 500 millimetres of rainfall over a 10-day period, or you could get next to nothing, and it will come through in the form of thunderstorms. So we will have to keep a very close eye on things. Right now it's leaning towards they're going to get closer towards nothing, especially on the Northern Territory side of things, but still we can remain hopeful for some good rainfall, especially in the Queensland side of things. That is for sure. Definitely don't want to be adding though to the river levels across North Queensland, but it looks like the majority of this rainfall here will flow into the Gilbert River catchment, which currently is dry at this time, but I imagine that's going to pretty quickly fill with water over the coming couple of hours, and then into the coming couple of days we'll likely see some minor to even moderate riverine flooding through Croydon and Georgetown as well, so we'll have to keep a very close eye on things up there. But yeah, that basically does it in terms of the rainfall forecast for North Queensland. I will release an update on this later on this afternoon and evening, covering in what pretty much exactly is expected with this rainfall event. The forecast is looking a lot more certain at this time, and whilst we are expecting significant falls to occur along the Cassowary coast, they are going to remain for the most part just north of where the really bad falls were over the last week. So I do expect the worst of these rainfall accumulations to be around the Cardwell up towards the Cairns area, and whilst they have had some monster falls so far this year, not just in the past week, but for the entire of 2025 pretty much to this day. Whilst we have had some really significant rainfall accumulations there, it hasn't been the disastrous flooding situation that we've seen unfold between Ingham down towards Townsville. However, I do fear that that is going to happen, considering the Tahlia River already majorly flooding at some locations and expected to continue minor flooding at just outside of Tahlia and in towards South Johnston. The Johnston River as well having some significant flooding as well around Innisfail, and then down towards I believe it's the Russell River as well is already at a minor flooding alert, and I imagine that that's going to pick itself up as well throughout the course of today as well, with plenty of areas to drain from. The Russell River rather is going to experience some pretty significant flooding from this weather event here. Anyway, certainly something to keep in the back of your head up in North Queensland. It's not done yet. The rainfall is not done yet, and I cannot stress that enough. So we'll keep a very close eye on things and see what exactly is expected over the coming couple of days. Things can change, and especially considering that a lot of this rainfall is going to be coming through in the form of showers and storms, there will be some major discrepancies in terms of the rainfall, which is good news. It means some locations are going to completely miss out on this rainfall here, and likely if that does happen in a river with a smaller catchment area and they miss out on the rainfall, then it's unlikely that major flooding is expected in said river. But unfortunately, for the most part, more flooding is expected to continue across far north Queensland, and certainly still time to prepare for the absolute worst, especially if you live in a flood-prone area across the Cassowary coast. It's definitely time to begin preparations now. All of that will be covered in my afternoon forecast update. And then inland down towards New South Wales and southeast Queensland, they have had a couple of thunderstorms over the last couple of days, with a few more thunderstorms expected tonight across interior parts of New South Wales. Tropical moisture down there going to give way to the chance of some severe thunderstorms around Orange, Dubbo and up towards Tamworth and Moree and Walgett and Lightning Ridge up here. So it'll be interesting to see what thunderstorms do materialise there. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a severe cell or two up there. A couple of good cells also expected around the Inverell and Moree area north of Narrabri tomorrow night as well, extending across the border in towards Goondiwindi, Wollongara and Stanthorpe later tomorrow night as well. A few storms also expected here and there in towards the south central parts of New South Wales on Friday night as well. There's a bit of a front moves through there. It's going to be quite a warm one by the looks of things on Friday afternoon. across New South Wales and Victoria as well. And then a nice severe thunderstorm outbreak looks to be on the cards as well for Saturday, and also in towards Sunday for New South Wales, especially into the north central parts of New South Wales. And then on Saturday night, especially between a line from Sydney out towards Cobar, some really good thunderstorms expected out there. We could be seeing a very meaty severe thunderstorm outbreak Saturday night, so we will keep a close eye on things in that forecast there, and detailed updates will be released if necessary. And then up towards Sunday as well, we're seeing these thunderstorms move into the northeast of New South Wales, and some good storms are possible up there as well. And then it looks like things calm off for Monday and Tuesday. Yes, there will be storms here and there across the southeast of Queensland. In fact, it does look like a proper outbreak could be possible on Wednesday as well, but in terms of good thunderstorms widespread here and there, it doesn't look like much is on the forecast, not at least until mid to late February, so we will have to keep a very close eye on the forecast here. It doesn't look like an awful lot is on the cards, or nothing really interesting for New South Wales or the southeast of Queensland. It is all happening though in North Queensland, that is for sure. Anyways, let's talk tropical stuff now. Just before we do actually talk about tropical stuff, I remember that we have to touch on the heatwave situation unfolding across Western Australia right now. It is going to be a hot one. It doesn't really feel like it right now down in cold Perth. In fact, those winds keeping it quite chilly. Temperatures right now of 20 to 21 degrees around the Perth metro area, but they will rise. We're expecting to top into the high 30s or early 40s around Perth today. I reckon Perth itself will get to about 39. There'll be a couple of weather stations that record 42 or 43 in the northern suburbs as well. It's going to be very warm tomorrow as well, expecting a top into the mid-40s across parts of the interior Wheatbelt and in towards the Goldfields as well. Kalgoorlie a top of 45 tomorrow on Thursday, and then again a top of 40 to 45 degrees expected into northern parts of the Goldfields, and especially up in towards the Gascoyne and the Pilbara region as well. We're seeing temperatures climb up into the mid-40s, even in towards the high 40s as well through Thursday into Friday as well, and then those temperatures remaining warm through Saturday and Sunday, with temperatures tickling 50 degrees expected on the coastline between Onslow across towards Port Hedland. Not overly unusual for this time of the year, but certainly is that pushing high 40s into the early 50s even. That's certainly some very warm temperatures. We will likely see those threaten the all-time records, especially once you get up to about 49 or 50 degrees. So some of these locations here, that does begin to threaten the all-time record up there. And that is what's on the forecast throughout Friday, Saturday, and up towards Sunday in this general area. Let's pull it back to today and have a look at the tropical cyclones currently meandering offshore. It's Tahlia, not Tiffany. I don't know where I got Tiffany from in yesterday's forecast update, but we've got Tiffany, oh my goodness. We've got Tahlia and we've got Vince offshore here. Vince is a smaller brother over here. It's well offshore from Western Australia. It had a pretty good peak of Category 4 status as well, unofficially estimated, but I did think the Bureau of Meteorology was going to call the Category 4 peak out of Vince. It certainly had some very good conditions, that's for sure, ahead of it. It is now beginning to undergo an eyewall replacement cycle, and I reckon just considering this, the fact that it is a small storm, Vince will struggle to rebound from that intensity. Tahlia is the big story though. It's a strong tropical cyclone well offshore from Western Australia, currently at Category 3 status here, but it is struggling a little bit by the looks of things with rotation, and especially with high wind shear. I think wind shear has been unexpectedly high for tropical cyclone Tahlia, and that's why it's not developing an eye right now, because this system, it had a really good start to life. It was blowing up some significant convection. It was looking really healthy, that's for sure, and right now it is struggling due to high wind shear, which is kind of removing the vertical stackiness and the organisation that the storm did once have as it was in its formative stages. And hopefully as we see this satellite imagery load in, I'll be able to show exactly what I mean here. But the system is definitely struggling for life, and whilst it will intensify over the coming couple of days, it's got until about Thursday evening by the looks of things until it gets itself over the waters that tropical cyclone Vince is tracked over, and terminal weakening will kick in there from about Thursday evening. So just about 36 or 48 more hours and then the system will certainly be on the way out. But yeah, you can see what I mean. It's struggling with high levels of wind shear right now, and it certainly is not making the most of its current environment. Whilst it is blowing up some really significant convection, by now we were expecting to see an eye begin to develop on this tropical cyclone, and we haven't really seen that just yet. So this system certainly struggling a little bit at this time here, and it is doubtful as to whether it will get to that powerful tropical cyclone status, because even if wind shear was to drop for this system, which is making the system look very awful right now, very ugly, it would have to take a bit of time to organise itself, and by the time it takes that time, it'll be over the cooler waters where tropical cyclone Vince is tracked over, and yeah, it's a bit of a feedback loop that just prevents the storm from getting to a significant intensity at this time. But there is going to be a tropical cyclone, whether it's late February or early March, that follows in the tracks of tropical cyclone Tahlia. In fact, you can see the Eastern West is actually calling for a bit of a tropical cyclone to develop sometime around the 11th or the 12th offshore from Broome here, and then head into the northwest West Australian coastline, and then there is rumbles of activity as we head into a higher energy phase towards the back end of February, again offshore from Western Australia. Not so much shown on this forecast model here, but the GFS has been calling for a couple of tropical lows to spin up well offshore from Western Australia towards the back back side of the forecast period here out towards the 25th or the 30th of February, looking really long range. But yeah, in terms of a chance of a tropical cyclone or a tropical low moving through the West Australian coastline, there will actually be an elevated chance between Monday and Thursday, and I wouldn't be surprised if a rainfall depression developed offshore from the Kimberley coastline here Monday to Thursday and went into the Broome area or meandered around the WA coastline by the looks of things. Even a strong tropical cyclone could even be possible here, so we will have to keep a very close eye on the forecast. It does look like things are possible up here. You can actually see a tropical cyclone here heading in towards Karratha on Sunday at a pretty decent intensity as well. This would be looking at category 3 or 4 on the GFS forecast model, but considering the GFS can throw out some really wacky predictions much later on into the forecast period, I would take this one with a very, very heavy pinch of salt, that's for sure, especially considering it is a stalling one. So the hot take to take away from here is, whilst there is a tropical low expected sometime between Monday and Thursday, the 10th to the 13th of February, to develop somewhere in the Kimberley region or offshore from the Pilbara coastline, in terms of a tropical cyclone, it's way too early to tell what's expected, way too early to tell what's going to happen, and we will have to wait and see over the coming couple of days to see what becomes of the forecast. I do hope that's covered everything in terms of the Australian weather scene. If there's any questions or comments that you've left that have been left unanswered, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. The support lately has been much appreciated. Again, I could not thank the subscribers and the channel members enough. They've really helped me out over the last couple of weeks, just in terms of being able to get the highest quality video content out to everybody. I'm going to return the videos up to a higher quality, as well as the situation over in Queensland does get temporarily better over the coming couple of days, but I do expect it to get worse, especially in the northern catchments around the Tahlia and the Johnston River, so it's certainly not over there, and some significant flooding is certainly possible over the coming couple of days as well, so make sure you are playing it safe up there. Certainly a time not to be off your guard, especially at this time of the year as well, given that it's the wet season, and more rainfall is expected to come over the coming couple of days, and more rainfall also expected to come over the coming couple of months as well. It will be a wet start to 2025, mark my words, up in far north Queensland. But that is all that I have time for today. A special shout out to the channel sponsors, of course, their names on screen right now. Could not run the show without them, and their support is much appreciated, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.